Kia ora and welcome to today's FlexTalk webinar. My name's Stuart Johnston and I'd like to extend a warm welcome on behalf of the EEA and ECA and today's speakers who I'll introduce later. This project has and continues to be a collaborative effort, and it's exciting to have so many people involved who are shaping the future of flexibility in New Zealand. Next slide. Next slide. Can you go to the next slide, please?
I think that we're on the next slide. Why flexibility? Why now?
Hasn't moved for me. All right. Thank you for joining. Whether you're here from industry, government, technology, or community sectors, we really appreciate your time and interest as we explore the next stage of FlexTalk and its role in enabling flexible energy for Aotearoa. A quick reminder, however, please mute your mics and turn off your cameras. This session is being recorded and will be shared on the EEA website at the end of this morning. Also, we encourage questions in the chat and we'll pick those questions up in the Q&A section at the end. Next slide. Electrification is ramping up across transport industry as well as at the household level, but that brings new systems pressures. Flexible consumer energy resources such as EVs, solar, hot water, batteries are a key part of the solution. But unless we get interoperability and visibility right, we risk siloed systems, high costs and lost opportunities. FlexTalk is helping us tackle that to unlock scalable, coordinated and consumer-friendly flexibility. Next slide. So to enable seamless communication across the energy ecosystem, open standards like OpenADR and IEEE 2030.5 are essential. They let different devices, platforms, and systems communicate without costly custom integration. This slide really sums up why FlexTalk started in the first place. It was to promote tech-neutral, future-proof solutions that reduce costs, increase choice, and support trust. However, this is more than just about the tech. It's about enabling the market and empowering consumers. Next slide. FlexTalk began with a focus on identifying and testing open communication protocols. The SEED project takes this further into real homes, real appliances, and real system interaction. The goal is to test how consumer energy resources or devices can respond to signals, provide flexibility, and deliver value using scalable and open tools, not bespoke workarounds. This isn't just theory, it's applied learning designed to pave the way for national implementation. Next slide. But we're not doing this alone or in a vacuum. This work aligns directly with some of the other pieces of work that have been done around Aotearoa, like FlexForum's Flex Plan 2.0, which provides a plan for the sector to coordinate practical actions around flexibility. It also closely aligns with ECA's DER scaled projects, which are demonstrating flexibility at scale, and FlexTalk feeds directly into those efforts, particularly the SEED project that we're doing now. And underpinning all of this is the Electricity Authority's Flexibility Roadmap, first released in 2021. FlexTalk helps operationalise the roadmap's goals, especially around interoperability and open frameworks. Next slide. So here's how today's session will run. Connie will now walk us through the journey so far with FlexTalk and the structure of the SEED project. Ramesh will then, our next speaker, will then present on the products and tech stack developed throughout the project. Then he'll hand over to Terry, who will cover signalling, what was trialled and what's changing. Then we'll turn to Connie for the key learnings, where we're heading next. Finally, I'll come back and wrap things up and lead the Q&A. So stay engaged, post your questions, and let's get into it.
Cool, thanks, Stuart. So I'd like to begin by just talking about the journey that began back in April 2022 when the EEA and ECA partnership to explore open communication protocols began. Our first project, FlexTalk 1.0, was the Demand Flexibility Common Communications Protocol project. EEA and ECA and industry came together to solve industry challenges, and we got pan-industry representation on a collaboration project to test open ADR and its fit for the New Zealand context, as well as explore what other protocols exist, the use cases, and who's using what around the world and for what purpose. So as Stuart mentioned, the first project really tested that communication between the EDB and the flexibility supplier, and we designed the processes for dispatching flexibility to achieve active managed charging of EVs, and latterly we included battery charge and discharge. This project really highlighted that open protocols are an essential element to enable flexibility services and ensure that technical complexity is minimised and that we can allow flexibility suppliers to enter the market and promote competition, which will ultimately be the best outcome for the consumer, particularly from an affordability perspective. So next, we wanted to test the communication methods between a flexibility supplier and the end device. And we wanted to test alternate energy resources from EVs and batteries. So thus we focused on hot water and air conditioning monitoring and control. So our webinar today predominantly focuses on this FlexTalk 1.5, our seed project, but we're also going to talk about how we're scaling up to our project that we have underway at the moment, FlexTalk 2.0, Smart Energy Use, and what informed that scale up. So the FlexTalk Seed project is a collaboration once again between EEA and ECA as our core funder, and was designed to explore and test at small scale the practical application of installing and signalling smart devices to enable demand flexibility in New Zealand. It builds upon the foundational work of the original FlexTalk project. The primary objective of the seed project was to assess the practicalities around installing and signalling smart devices in consumer homes to provide initial insights that could seed the way for larger scale trials. This project is called Seed for this reason. It really enabled us to learn by doing and test before scaling. So what did the project aim to do? We wanted to identify and evaluate the selected technologies for their suitability for demand flexibility. So shortly, Ramesh will take you through what products and the why and what we found to be suitable to scale. We wanted to identify the components for project planning, including understanding the cost, the installation complexity, etc. We also wanted it to provide insights to inform the FlexTalk project. So what approach should we take? How do we deliver and sequence the work? What data do we need? Can we develop a suite of templates that we can use, like contracts and customer engagement material, etc.? And we also really used this project to provide guidance and inputs into device installation best practice. So we started testing the waters with developing training material and getting feedback directly from electricians. So who was involved? Our delivery partners were essential to the success of the project. Cortexo, Terry's going to talk soon, led the technical aspects and provided the open ADR platform, which ensured that seamless connectivity and communication with the installed smart devices. Ivory Egg played a crucial role in the product selection, electrician training, and the installation and commissioning process. They provided expert advice to the chosen products, signalling approaches, and ensured a positive experience for our homeowners. 10 electricians were geographically spread across the country, so you can see on that map of New Zealand, and they participated in the project as both the installer and as the customer in this project. And Ivory Egg recruited these electricians and provided them with the necessary equipment to install in their homes. We also had a test house, which was a dedicated space for hands-on learning and troubleshooting, and it allowed the team to experiment with different configurations in a controlled environment. It also allowed for precise experimentation, and it minimized the risk of any disruption to a homeowner. We didn't want to impact anybody's daily routines. So this project was delivered over 5 months, and it saw the products installed, being a HEMS, hot water and air conditioning monitoring and control devices in 10 homes before testing interoperability by sending signals to control the devices remotely and then gathering participant feedback. Through the project, we also conducted research to understand what products and what protocols exist out there for future projects, and the team joined international working groups or were participants on groups like EDNA and the IEEE 2030.5 International Working Group. I'll now hand over to Ramesh to explain more about the product selection.
Thanks, Connie. There were several considerations when choosing the products to evaluate during the seed trial. Some of those were particular to the functions that that device had to perform, but there were also some overarching considerations. The devices had to have the requisite New Zealand electrical safety and radio frequency compliance certifications and documentations so that they were legal to install and use in New Zealand. They had to have adequate data privacy and network security measures built into both the device and any connected cloud services. We chose to use products that communicated using internationally standardized open protocols and standards for the reasons already outlined by Stuart and Connie. And we wanted to use proven solutions from reputable global manufacturers, and preferably products which were already chosen and used by the New Zealand electricity industry where there were suitable products. Next slide, please, Connie. For hot water control, measurement of inflow and outflow temperatures from hot water cylinders, and measurement of power consumption of hot water cylinders, we chose to use Shelly products. Shelly are a European manufacturer based in Bulgaria. They've been operating for about 18 years, 25 million odd devices installed over more than 4.5 million homes over more than 100 countries, and already a preferred wireless retrofit building controls solution within the New Zealand electrical industry. In this seed trial, we asked 10 electricians to install these Shelly devices in the way that they thought best, using the miscellaneous installation hardware enclosures that they thought would suit best. And then we asked them to provide feedback on that. The feedback was that the Shelly devices were quick and easy to install, to commission, and to connect. And based on that, we're comfortable recommending them for use at scale. And we will be using them based on that feedback for the next stage of the project. Next slide, please, Connie. Based on the installation feedback we had from those electricians, we created a small enclosure for the next stage of the project, into which all of the Shelly products would be pre-mounted and pre-wired, so that all the electrician would have to do is connect the 230 volts in and out via a push terminal, which you'll see on the right of the enclosure, strap the temperature probes to the inflow and outflow water pipes on the hot water cylinder, screw it to the wall and commission it, which is already proven to make installation times and costs a lot lower. Next slide, please, Colin. We also wanted to trial EcoPort communication and control with hot water heaters, as it's an open international protocol for hot water heating and HVAC control. To do this, we chose to use Skycentric's products. They're a US manufacturer. They were one of the first manufacturers of the EcoPort devices when they started in 2013. And they provide both EcoPort and Open ADR certification and solutions for other manufacturers, including some of the largest hot water heating and air conditioning manufacturers in the world. Another thing that made this product particularly interesting to evaluate during the seed project was the fact they already had a platform with AI running for hot water cylinder optimization and for job management, including installation, connection, and fleet management. This solution's already in use with a little over 15,000 hot water cylinders controlled by utilities in the United States. Our experience was that the products were quick to install, connect, and commission. They've worked reliably, and we feel comfortable recommending this as a solution for scale, although we're not using it in the next stage of the project because there aren't currently any commercially available hot water cylinders in New Zealand with EcoPort functionality on board. When this changes in the future, this would be an interesting product to look at to scale. Next slide, please, Colin. For air conditioning control, we selected Intesis products. Intesis are a Spanish company who have been operating for 38 years. They've got more than 1 million air conditioning units already connected and under control, and they provide a multi-brand, multi-site, multi-user platform with integration with more than 2,500 air conditioning models. So that allowed us to trial a air conditioning manufacturer agnostic solution utilizing open protocols that would allow us to control virtually any air conditioning unit, which we would see in New Zealand. We found the products easy to install, commission, and communicate with. We would be comfortable recommending this as a solution at scale, and it is the solution we've chosen to use during the next stage of trials. Next slide, please, Connie. For measurement of the air conditioning power consumption, we used the same Shelly energy meters that we used for the hot water cylinder control and power measurement, and we chose those for all of those same reasons. Once again, we found them quick and easy to install and commission, and we're comfortable using them at scale, and we will be utilising this in the next stage of the project. Next slide, please, Connie. We trialled 3 different energy management systems. The first one was an extra smart energy management system from the Netherlands. This is an enterprise level energy management system suitable for residential, commercial or public projects. There were several things that made this interesting to try. Number one, it was an affordable solution given its level of functionality. Number 2, it offered wide open protocol support on board the unit, including KNX, BACnet, Modbus, and OCPP. Another thing that made it interesting to try is it's already got developed logic using machine learning and AI on board, which can clip into weather forecasting to predict PV generation. It can be connected to live pricing feeds, for example, spot market pricing feeds. It can evaluate and measure load performance within a building and use all of that data to automatically do load control within the building. In addition to this, it's got BREEAM reporting on board, which is an international methodology for evaluating building performance. In practice, we found it easy to install, to connect, to commission, and it is performed reliably. We would feel comfortable recommending it for use at scale, although we're not utilising it in the next stage of trials, because that high level of functionality it offers isn't required for the next stage of trials. Next slide, please, Connie. We trialled a home energy management system from Universal Devices, who are a US manufacturer who already have tens of thousands of these units in action in the US. The thing that made this very interesting to try is it is one of very few products, affordable products, which have a certified open ADR VEN within the box. We found it very easy to connect it to the Cortexo V10 services, and that connection has proved very reliable. However, we found connection and commissioning of the particular hot water control and air conditioning control devices which are available for use in New Zealand complicated and time-consuming compared to the other energy management systems. And for this reason, it's the only product within the trial which we wouldn't recommend for deployment at scale at this time. Universal Devices do have integrations with some of the devices which are available to us in New Zealand coming, and it would be interesting to evaluate those integrations when they're available. It may be a product that is usable at scale in New Zealand at some stage in the future. Next slide, please, Connie. The last energy management system we trialled was from Homey from the Netherlands. They have a lovely home energy management system called Homey Pro. They've been operating since 2014 with over 200,000 connected homes across the world. There were several things that made this an interesting product for us to evaluate. One, it had extensive wireless open protocol support. On board the hub, it has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, Thread, Matter, 433 megahertz, and infrared. It also supports some wide open protocols for building controls via IP, including Modbus and KNX. The third thing that made it really interesting for us to evaluate is it supports thousands of IoT and building technologies natively off the hub by the simple addition of a free app. In practice, we found it fast and easy to install, to connect, to commission, and it's worked reliably. We would feel comfortable recommending it for use at scale, and it is the home energy management system that we've chosen to use in the next stage of trials. Thank you very much. Over to Terry.
Thanks, Ramesh. Right, so Ramesh has gone through all the hardware we used, and I'm just going to go through how we connected it all up and the communications between them all. I think the important thing to remember is SEED was all about, can we communicate and send commands to these devices? Do these devices operate satisfactorily? Can we get the information back? It was more about that aspect of the hardware than any specific sort of demand response control. However, we had to implement the full range of demand flexibility control mechanisms. So if you look at the diagram on the screen, on the left-hand side in the orange, that's your EDB or transpower to aggregator, flexibility supplier, layer, retailer. The EDB or transpower would be acting as the VTN, the virtual top node of an open ADR connection, and the VEN or virtual end node would be typically the retailer, the aggregator, who is then controlling devices further down the list. The orange bit is pretty much what we did in FlexTalk 1. It's all about the connectivity of utility with aggregators to reach out to devices. In the middle in that white bit in the middle, it's how we connected to all the different groups of devices where these 10 homes were located. If we start at the very top, in the top box here on the right-hand side, for the eco ports and the home energy management systems, we couldn't just drop them in a house of one of the 10 electricians that was providing their houses for the demand flexibility control. We needed to put them in a separate location, so we put them in a test house that Ivory Egg supplied, and so those devices were connected to HVAC systems, hot water systems, eco-port systems, but in a sort of a test environment. The connections that we had to those devices were through already existing, as Ramesh has explained, OpenADR virtual end nodes that was either built in to the hardware itself, in the case of the universal device, or the virtual end node that was built into the cloud platform, giving us the connectivity down to one of the building management systems and the EcoPort simulators. So that was pretty much direct OpenADR connectivity through to the end device. If we come down to the next 3 boxes in the middle, these are just the different methods that we used to connect to the devices. So we're connecting to the same hot water control, heat pump control, but we used different methods. In one case, we wanted to see what the ease of connectivity and the reliability of going through the manufacturer's cloud was. In another case, we wanted to see what the benefits of going direct over the mobile phone network to the devices inside the house without going through the manufacturer's cloud. And that's represented by the green box at the top, which is going through the manufacturer's cloud to the hot water control and the temperature control, and the grey box at the bottom, or the brown box at the bottom, which represents going to exactly the same devices, but through the mobile phone network. The blue bit in the centre, which is the heat pump control, we used the Antisis cloud service that was already existing to talk directly to, to talk through the Antisis cloud to any model of heat pump that was existing in the homes. So those three types of connections we used to get through to the various devices in each of the houses. This meant we could send a signal right from the left-hand side, virtual top node and an OpenADR connection, or the server, if you like, and we could send that down through a receiver, virtual end node, and then that would be translated through to the actual devices for specific actions. So if we go to the next slide, we'll just see what those specific actions were. So because OpenADR is an Open International Demand Flexibility Standard, and we tried it out in FlexTalk 1, we used several different mechanisms to send signals in FlexTalk 1 through to the flexibility suppliers or aggregators. But because we're testing the hardware effectively here, we wanted to do something simple and straightforward. So we use the OpenADR simple signal. It's just a signal that has a setting of 0, 1, 2, or 3, which is mapped to a particular desired outcome. Much the same as the DREAD system, very common in Australia to control air conditioning units. DREAD's demand response enabled device. So very similar to that, where you send a discrete unique signal and it puts the device into a particular mode for operation. So if you look at the table here, you can see that with our simple signal mapping, we had sort of three levels of demand and one just off or normal level. So if we sent a 0 signal, all that said was turn everything on, which means don't inhibit the hot water system, just let the hot water system run under its thermostat control and doing whatever it's doing, and don't inhibit the heat pump. If the customer's got the heat pump running, just leave it running and don't touch it. The next one we had was a low reduction of demand, and low reduction, although it was the most effective or largest bit of demand we had in the house, the hot water cylinder. So if we sent out a 1, which was just a reduced demand low signal, we disabled the hot water cylinder. So obviously it only disabled the hot water cylinder if it was actually heating. So if it was heating, it would turn the hot water cylinder off. At all times, we're also getting 5-minute data updates, and we could see the change in hot water temperature if the hot water was actually running and we turned it off. So we had the ability through software to go, actually that water's starting to cool down a bit, it's still running, so let's turn the hot water cylinder back on. If we set the level 2 signal, which was the medium reduced demand signal, which was the one we used most often because it was the one that tested most, all of the installed devices, the reduced demand medium signal, it turned the hot water off, but it also changed the heat pump if the heat pump was operating. If the heat pump was operating in the cooling mode, it increased the set temperature by 2 degrees. And if the heat pump was operating in the heating mode, it decreased the set temperature by 2 degrees. And what we were doing is monitoring or changing the set point, but also monitoring the house temperature. So we knew exactly what the temperature in the room was. Now, if the consumer sitting there with his heat pump on, and then it just quietly changed by 2 degrees, decided that he noticed that and it was getting cool, then he could obviously override it by using the remote control that comes with all the heat pumps. And we registered the fact that the consumer had overridden our control, so we no longer controlled everything. It was totally up to the consumer. Once they'd touched that controller, they had control of everything. In the feedback that we got, and I think Connie will go through this later, there was no feedback from consumers that they noticed any of the change in temperature. The last setting we had was reduce demand high, which was disable everything. Turn the hot water off, turn the heat pump off. We didn't really use that. Turning the heat pump off is a pretty aggressive action. Someone's sitting there, they've set their heat pump on to 22 degrees or whatever, and suddenly it goes off. That's quite aggressive. We could send it, we tested sending it, but we didn't use it. Our regular signal was number 2, reduced demand medium. So we could have used, as I said, we're only testing the devices, so we didn't really have to do too much with the fancy signals, but we could have used a number of the signals that we used in FlexTalk 1. So for example, instead of these simple signals, we could have sent a pricing signal, which said, we want you to, let's say similar to reduced demand medium, we want you to disable the hot water cylinder, and we also want to change the temperature of your heat pump, and we're willing to pay you X cents a kilowatt hour change if you do that. And we could have sent that signal, and the software receiving that signal would have decided whether, based on a pricing threshold, whether they were interested in participating in that event or not, and therefore send a response back saying, yes, we'll do that, and adjusting its devices. So there's many more signal types we could have used, but that wasn't really the purpose of the seed trial. Okay, so going to the last slide, and a little note for Connie, I've already gone over time. What are we doing with FlexTalk 2? So I'll just go through this. So FlexTalk 2 is all about a hypothesis that smart tech can lower consumer power bills. So it's about managing the kit inside the house and giving an advantage, pricing or power energy saving advantage to the consumer. It's not about utilities signaling or doing anything along those lines. But in FlexTalk 2, instead of going through cloud platforms or through the mobile phone network to various devices, 2 or 3 entry points to a house, we decided to use one connection point, one point of central connection, the home energy management system, the HOME, as Ramesh has already told you about. So the HOME is in the house. It can connect through the internet back to the OpenADR platform, but that is not necessary. It doesn't have to do that. And inside the house, the HOME talks to a hot water control system through the Shelly devices using those apps inside the HOME that Ramesh talked about, IoT apps that can talk over the Wi-Fi network inside the house. It talks over an app inside the HOME to the Intesis connector to talk to the hot water cylinder, and it talks to an app in the HOME to the inverter that's connected to the house if there's solar, and there is a lot of solar in FlexTalk 2. The home energy management system has the ability to load programmable software, and so Cortexo has written some software to optimize the energy use inside the house, which sits on the HEMS and it shifts load outside of peak time. That is its default behavior. It doesn't have to be connected to the internet. If it loses internet connectivity, it will still do that and just move peak load out of peak times. Because it's connected to the internet, we can do far smarter things, and that's receive external signals. So we can do things like track the temperature change inside the cylinders and not change turn a hot water cylinder off if the water is already looking like it will be getting too cold for people to utilize that hot water and have a shower or do the dishes. We can do smart things like target there's 100 houses in FlexTalk 2, so target a particular group of houses that may be associated with a particular retailer to change the load because of some pricing signals from the retailer's tariff plan, shoulder peak, off peak. Or maybe it's the utility that is got 20 or 30 of these houses in FlexTalk 2 connected to a zone substation or a particular transformer, and the EDB wants to be able to signal those units to change their load profile at a certain point in time. We can do all that because it is connected to the demand flexibility platform outside of the household. That will be enough from me, and I'll pass back to Connie.
Thank you, Terry. So I just want to do a bit of a summary of our results, and I'll focus first of all on the product and installation findings. So in terms of our product performance, most of the smart devices performed as expected, demonstrating high reliability in hot water and air conditioning control. As Ramesh mentioned, the universal device HEMS unit was deemed unsuitable for scaled deployment, and that was due to its commissioning complexity with New Zealand's hot water heating and air conditioning control products. So we have opted for an alternative HEMS, the Homey Pro, for our next project. In terms of the ease of installation, the Shelley and the Antisis products were generally reported as easy to install by our electricians who participated in the project. And in contrast, the universal device HEMS unit was rated as significantly more difficult to install. We did face some installation challenges during the project. So things around there was variations in the existing home's infrastructure, including the physical location of the hot water cylinder and the configuration of the electrical wiring. So this does highlight that it's not always a cookie cutter approach, and electricians do need to solutionize on the job and get crafty at times with how they wire units and where. In terms of connectivity, we found that direct connectivity via Wi-Fi and MQTT worked well, and that could mitigate future risks that might arise from reliance on manufacturer cloud services. So now for our key insights and findings on the signalling and customer experience. We had success load shifting. So we further confirmed in this trial that hot water heating and air conditioning loads could be adjusted without affecting customer experience. Our customers didn't notice us doing this. We had positive customer feedback. So there was no adverse customer reactions to that remote signalling. And all participants were positive about their involvement in the signalling phase of the project. One participant actually actively engaged with new control features for their heat pump as well, which suggests the potential for value add to consumers through better access to interfaces and access to their own device data. There was some variability in load response, so events did reveal that there was a number of factors that could affect load response, including one customer actually set up their own device schedule, which overrode external signalling. So the status of the device at the time of signalling can also impact whether a change is made to the device. So as Terry mentioned, if a heat pump was off and we signaled it, nothing happened, which is a good thing. The consumer always had control. So these findings provide an initial indication that demand flexibility can be effectively integrated into consumer energy management with minimal disruption. We think that future efforts should seek to replicate this trial on a more significant scale to see if the results can be replicated too. We also, and are doing this in the next project, but fine-tuning our event logic and improving customer interfaces, and generally just building more awareness on the initiatives and the cool stuff that consumer energy resources can do. So if you're interested in delving deeper into the insights that we've shared today, we do have an accompanying report which we will share post this webinar with the slides in the recording, and it's also available on the EEA website, but please do feel free to reach out to myself or any of the team who've spoken today, and we'll provide our contact details at the end of the webinar. So we have talked a little bit about FlexTalk 2.0 today, and we'll probably leave you a little bit in suspense on the full sharing of that project. But we did want to let you know that we have kicked up in scale, and we do have this next exciting phase of the project underway, which we've called FlexTalk 2.0 Smart Energy Use. And we're currently in our installation phase here. So we have taken all of these critical learnings that we've learnt from this initial seed pilot, and we are on track to connect over 100 homes by the end of this month. So this rapid progression is a testament to the strong groundwork laid in the first phase and the hard mahi of this team presenting today. Also, a cornerstone of the scale up is our direct partnership with the Lines Company. So we've integrated in with their community solar initiative, which creates a fantastic opportunity to offer customers not just solar, but also a home energy management system and that air conditioning and hot water devices. And our goal with this project is to enable these customers to optimize their energy use directly in their homes. And TLC has been, or the Lines Company has been instrumental in this process and able to get us engaged with their customer channels and helping us highlight the significant benefits to their participation. So we are excited to continue sharing more with you about this next phase of FlexTalk. And I think this is my final slide, but I've got a bit of a call to action. So through the FlexTalk project, we've gained real-world practical insights into implementing smart energy technologies and flexibility solutions in homes. And we really would encourage you to leverage our learnings and what we have experienced to date. So we can help with product selection, talking about technical connectivity, project documentation and artifacts, providing general advice, drawing on what we've learnt. Our goal is to collaborate as much as possible and accelerate the energy transition. So please do talk to us. We love to talk about this stuff and we'd love to help. Over to you, Stuart.
All right. Thanks very much, Connie. That brings an end to our presentations, and thank again to all the speakers for sharing their insights and experiences. We now have time for your questions, so please feel free to pop them into the chat if you haven't already. I'm going to go through those. I know some of them have been sort of answered, but it's probably good to go through them again for all of the people on the call. And we'll try to get through as many as we can. This is a chance for you to dig deeper into any of the products, findings, or future plans we've touched on today. And hopefully your feedback and questions will help answer any of your questions you've got, but also could also make us think about things in a different way for our own projects. I'm going to kick off with one from Matt Smith. When using the simple signal mapping, is the device level strategy configured on site or is it configured at the platform level? AKA, could homes each have different configuration or would it be common response for each aggregator? Terry or Ramesh?
So I've thrown an answer in for Matt in the chat there. Because the signal is coming externally down to the devices, that signal can be totally independent and specific for every household. What you'd do in reality, an aggregator would have his load split up into clusters around particular areas, around particular assets, around particular GXPs, and would signal that group as a group, a specific group, but you could just signal an individual house.
I'd add to that each individual HEMS could be configured differently so that a building owner could decide how they might respond to a request from the grid. There are in large projects with significant load that might be sensible, but as an industry, if we can do it in a relatively cookie cutter way, I think that would be suitable for most small to medium projects. But the technology is capable of both approaches.
All right. There's another question from Matt. Does the Homey Pro leverage the home Wi-Fi, large homes needing meshed systems, or does it create its own network to communicate with in-home devices and thus needs to be centrally located in the house?
It can do both, actually. In the seed trial and in the extension, we are using the home's Wi-Fi network and the home's internet connection. And we can see those as two potential points of failure and potential points of problems as we tend to scale. So we're really interested to see how much of a problem that is in reality. That's one of the things we'd really like to learn. Using the home's Wi-Fi and the home's internet connection obviously makes it a very easy, low-cost, fast way of deploying things with risk. But we can also do it without reliance on either of those. So with Homey Pro, it's also got support for other wireless protocols other than Wi-Fi, including Zigbee, Z-Wave, Thread, Matter, etc., which allow it to communicate to IoT or control devices within the home without relying on the home's Wi-Fi. And those individual devices can create their own mesh network. And we did trial in the seed project using a 4G router to provide an independent internet connection to the homeowner's internet connection. So once again, the technology is capable of both scenarios, but we're trialing in the next stage using Wi-Fi and the home's own internet connection.
All right. The next question comes from Cliss Lambourne. Are you comparing the effectiveness in terms of load response and cost to ripple control?
I just suggested that would be a very good thing to do in FlexTalk 2. It certainly wasn't anything we looked at in seed. Seed was just 10 houses testing the functionality of the devices and the connectivity. But in FlexTalk 2, it may well be worthy of us to have a little look at that. But just bear in mind that the premise of FlexTalk 2 is showing that smart devices can lower a consumer's power bill. It's not really, I think the question's more EDB focused than it is sort of consumer value focused. So, but it certainly sounds interesting.
We can also, the areas where we think we might get some benefits over standard ripple control, if we're just thinking about energy, is because we've got temperature measurement of inflow and outflow pipe temperatures, we can actually treat the hot water cylinder like a battery. So we can preload energy into the hot water cylinder when there's free energy off the roof or when energy costs are very low, and then not heat the water cylinder during peak times. The second advantage with having that temperature sensing is it gives us a safety. With ripple control, you've got to be gentle with it because otherwise people can run out of hot water. In 99% of homes, it might not be an issue, but in one home, it might be. So you've got to do the ripple control in such a way that that one home doesn't get a cold shower if possible. Because we've got independent temperature measurement of every single hot water cylinder with the particular technology stack we're using, we can get much better utilization of those potential energy savings, because for that one hot water cylinder where they might get a cold shower, we can just override the control on that one. So we think there are potential areas where we can deliver significantly more value using the technology stack we're trialing compared to standard water control. But we don't know yet. We'd love to gather that data.
All right. Next question is an interesting one for the current project we're doing. Finding suitable candidates can be quite challenging with product tech requirements and takes time. How did you go about recruiting for this and future trials?
That's a good question. I can probably take that one. At this stage, we have many channels. So our core channel is through the Lions Company, and they're engaging with councils and rest homes for customers. But we have some time constraints in this project and a need to get 100 homes connected. So we started to broaden the channels that we targeted. So we're using our electrician networks to recruit customers themselves. So I think we've got 5 electricians who we've asked to go out to their customer base and recruit based on the prerequisites of having electric hot water heating and electric air conditioning. So that's helped us. But yes, a lot of time engagement with the consumers, and just it's really, I think, it really requires you to just actually have somebody that's there that the customer can interact with and ask questions to, and just make yourself available to show them the benefits and walk them through the process and be accommodating. So yeah, there's been a lot of learnings in that space.
There's a few questions here about the cost, so I'll wrap them into maybe Matt's question, which is, what is the hardware cost and ongoing subscription cost for the Shelly plus Homey Pro and Intensis equipment?
So the hardware cost, let's start with the ongoing costs. With the Shelly and Homey Pro and Intensis equipment, cloud services are provided at no charge. There are some premium feature sets which you can choose to pay a subscription for, none of which are required for this particular trial or the extension trial. And those costs tend to be pretty low if you do choose to use those extended feature sets. In Intensis, all features are free. Shelly, if you want the extended energy reporting, which isn't required for this, I think that's about €35 a year for unlimited devices. And for the Homey Pro, there's no ongoing subscription costs. You get the full feature set for free once you've bought the hardware. In terms of the hardware cost, you're right, the Homey Pro in New Zealand's around $800. The complement of kit to do hot water control, temperature measurement, and energy measurement is, please don't hold me to these figures, but a couple of, $200-300, and plus the enclosure. The particular and the air conditioning gateways, the particular ones we're using around the $500 mark. One thing I would mention is that these are pricing for small scale trial in small numbers. As the solution is scaled, we would expect the per home or per installation cost to come down dramatically. So I wouldn't consider those as long-term at scale costs, but they are approximate trial costs.
Got a question just here around, are we looking at having residential SME BESS engaged? We are looking at in the current project around including batteries, but we're only looking at that at the moment. So it could, if anyone's actually got any in there, we are having some talks about having some included as well from suppliers, but we'll keep you informed on that one going forward. Next question is around any insights yet on how much consumer power bills are likely to be lowered by the HEMS optimization versus selling DER externally?
comment I made in the chat there was that's actually the purpose of FlexTalk 2. So we don't have that answer, but we watch the space. That's what we're going to tell you at the end of FlexTalk 2.
All right. The next one is, are there any retailer or trader partners in phase 2 of the trial?
Yes, just looking to onboard a retailer at the moment. So we can share more about that in our next presentation. That's another avenue actually that we're exploring for customers.
All right. Has a review of individuals' data privacy been considered? If so, are you able to publish findings? What security analysis was undertaken from both the data integrity and functionality?
Yeah, so we've just kicked off a privacy impact assessment on the project. So yeah, we can share more around the process and the findings as we move through.
Terry, sounds like operationally the control will work the same as the current load control as a Ripple plant works in clusters. This means that if I don't want load controlled and I'm paying for a higher rate than, say, my neighbour who is with the same retailer, it is likely that I would still have my load controlled despite paying for no control. Or have I misunderstood your comment earlier?
It sounds a bit complex for me to answer, and I don't really understand what you're saying. I think you're saying something like, won't I just be affected by Ripple control anyway? And that's an interesting question. I would have to talk to EDB people to answer that. Just a comment though about the signaling mechanism. Ripple control is like a sledgehammer. It's a sledgehammer mechanism to deal with a large volume of devices. Works really well. I'm not, it's a great system. What we're talking about here is more smarter Ripple control, more refined. Talking to individual devices, or maybe not, that are in the same cluster or in the same group. So I'm not really sure how to answer your question. Maybe we can do that offline.
Yeah. Hey, Stuart, I think we might park it there and we can take the other questions offline just in the interest of time. We've got 1 minute to go.
All right. Before we wrap up, I just want to again acknowledge our major partners in this work. ECA, whose ongoing support and co-leadership has been critical in enabling FlexTalk to grow from concept to real-world testing. And the Lines Company, our delivery partner in the current Seed 2.0, FlexTalk 2.0 project, helping bring flexibility into real homes and proving what's possible in practice. This is true collaboration, and we're incredibly grateful for their commitment, leadership, and willingness to experiment and learn alongside us. Thanks also for all of you for attending today and listening to what we've got to say on this project, and hopefully you'll stay engaged with where we go with FlexTalk 2.0 in future webinars. We'll be sharing the recording shortly, and you'll find that on our website. We also like to invite you to stay involved through through other work that we're doing with Flex Forum. Also, we've got a presentation at the EEA Asset Management Forum on the 25th of June in Wellington, and also we're going to have a workshop on this at the EEA conference on the 9th of September. So please stay informed. We'll obviously be keeping people informed through our EEA newsletter and other things like that. But if you also want to talk to any of us about the project or wider things like that, please get in touch with any of us on the call today. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.